One moment, please. Hi, my name is Lisa Lynn, and I'm the secretary at NCSA, and I'm another Bajan.
I'm Aldra Ashton, clerical officer.
I'm Agnetha Woods Chase, clerk typist.
I am Troy Wickham, deputy manager.
I'm Laura Foster, research and information officer.
I'm Cindy Bennett, receptionist.
I'm James Avil, driver messenger.
I'm Curtis Sellers, accountant.
I'm Natalia Carby Eiffel, senior counselor.
I'm Timothy Eiffel, information technology officer.
I'm Stephen Bishop, assistant accountant.
Hi, I'm Paula Beth Atkinson, substance abuse prevention officer with the National Council on Substance Abuse.
I'm Cheryl Osborne, office attendant.
I'm Betty Hunt, manager at the National Council on Substance Abuse, and I'm another Bajan.
And I'm another Bajan.
I'm another Bajan.
I am another Bajan.
And I'm another Bajan.
And I'm another Bajan.
And I'm another Bajan.
I'm another Bajan.
And I'm another Bajan.
Hi, I'm Roger Streeks, and I'm another Bajan. You know, I see my aunts, my mother go to work every day, uncles and stuff. So they had some good principles. They were hardworking people. And as a youngster, that rub off on me. That's the perception they had of life, you know, hardworking and stuff. But I remember then getting up early in the morning to get the big yellow vans. That time they had no ZRs. So, and I would see them get up in the morning and get ready for work, same routine day after day. And on evenings, this is one of the fun memories I had. We were small. We used to live at this big gallery house at the top of Brittle Hill, where they had a shop named Fall Workman. And adjacent, they had this supermarket. It was French's at first, and then it changed to Budge Boy supermarket, just at the top of Donkeyville, you know. And when the van hit the corner in the evening and Mama get out, we would jump up in the gallery, Mama coming. And that was like, that's one of the memories they had, us as little children, right? Another thing, one of my aunts, and I think I was speaking to one of my aunts this morning about this. And my Aunt Beverly, she's the youngest of the girl children. She used to have roller skates, and it was forbidden to take out them roller skates. And I remember one time they went to either Kaduma or something, and that was my opportunity to take out these roller skates and skate into the gallery, because we had a relatively big gallery. And you know, they fall down and chip my tooth with these roller skates. And I didn't tell nobody at first, but my mother noticed it. And when she noticed it, then they get lashes down behind that fall and stuff, right? And Brittle Hill was a place that, you know, I believe they always had stigmas attached to different districts and communities. And Brittle Hill was known for like a relatively, I won't say a bad area, but where you had a lot of violence, and you know, I mean, you come from Brittle Hill, people say you're bad and stuff, but nevertheless, as I tell you, I never lacked for nothing and going to school, and therefore, you know, I had a good upbringing. I remember going to church with my grandmother and with my mom and my aunt at different times, you know, so that was pretty good. I was a fairly bright student. You know, my first farm, second farm, I had all of my books and bag breaking down with the T-square down and thing. And I was all about the work. Right? And I more was fascinated by biology and chemistry and physics. And I did pretty well in those subjects. And had the aspirations that one day I would become a chemist, or in that area working in a pharmacy, something like that there. You know, but something happened in these teenage years, right? I don't know it when they got older as teenage rebellion. And as I told you, I was surrounded by aunts and uncles that had good family values, good family principles. I see them work hard every year. They branch off as they got older, marry, had their own house and whatnot. And that was my perception of life. As a teenager, you get a job, you get a wife, you work hard, build a home, children and kids and stuff like that. And I think in my teenagers, I had good intentions, but obviously made some bad choices. Going to school, having all my books, shirt tucked in and stuff like that. I started to gravitate then to the guys that, the group fellas that walking with the shirt tail, they had this thing, just had to call it the dovetail. So you got the front of the shirt pushing and the back out and got it full and stuff and walking with a bop. And that, for some reason, I just want to be, I want to be like that crowd. And a whole set of things start to set in. The times where I had to go to church with my grandmother and mother and thing, it come to the point where when I wasn't going, I say, I ain't going. And all of this rebellion, you feel as a youngster, you know everything. People try to put you right, and I always did know. I know, but can't tell me what to do. So little did I know that rebellion would have been a trickle effect where a lot of other things were being waiting down the line that I would get into that would unfold in my life, right? But my time at St. Leonard's was really good. As I told you, I played football. I was part of the boxing thing, the boxing program. And I was fairly bright in chemistry and physics. But after this rebelliousness that setting, I stopped down in fourth form. And then obviously, I think there was a rule that if you stop down twice, then that is it, because I had a fifth form. So if you stop down once and then you made it to fifth form the next following year, yeah. But if you stop down twice, then you have to leave as, right? So I came out of school like 16 years old. And still with the aspirations that I would go to the O-Level Institute and further studies, right? At the time, my stepfather, whom is the father to my brother and sister, right? He worked at Banksbury's then, and he got a casual job for me. We would call a casual worker. So when I left school, then they hired me as a casual worker. So I would go and work in the barn, and I'd be offloading containers that come in from overseas and stuff like that. And I did that for like 2 years. So they would let you work to a certain part, because they let you work to with NS and stuff. They would go give vacation money, so they would let you go just show you that. You would go home for 2 weeks and then they would call you back. But then I think somewhere along the line they had an opening in what we would call the bottling hall, the production department. And I remember the superintendent, because they had engineers, they had supervisors, and then superintendents. This man, I think this gentleman, I think he's of late now, Mr. Weeks. And he was tight with my stepfather, and I got the opportunity to apply for the job, and I got it. So then I started to work staunch at Banksbury's, and this would have been in the late 80s now, right? That's about the time when they done the first bodybuilding show. But what happened is, when I got that first pay back, I went home to my mother and I gave my mother some money, and I was, when I get it, I said, wow, and I think, but if I working to get in this, I think they didn't need to go and study. So that went truly, that kind of was put on the back burner, so to speak. And then I get put on staff. I worked in the bottling hall for like a year or two, and then there was another opening we would call in the cellars department. So this was now actually dealing with chemicals and filtering the beer. So, and I got that job, and I was working as a cellar operator at Banksbury's, the old company that where we used to be in Willie, right? And you remember come right, smell the hots boiling. I think at that time too, I had start to develop now the same attraction I had to that kind of group. It went on beyond to outside, to the community. I'm a young man working at Bainsbury's, getting paid, helping my mother with groceries, paying bills and stuff. Actually, at the time, they were saying that when I was working at Bainsbury's, I was even working for more money than my aunts and uncles that come along and see working, right? You know, for some reason, I started then to gravitate to the guys that were on the block. You know, you will see guys conking money and somebody with a spliff in the mouth and it was like he ain't working away, he got all that money. You know, at this time now I don't even know from a distance. I say from a distance. So at this time I didn't even know if it was just $2 bills that the man was conking, right? And to say it was $100 bills. You know, so I think that I started to gravitate to that sort of company, partying in the nightclubs and stuff. Then I would see where mood and my altering substances would then introduce into my life, you know. But at the time, I think that I was still pretty much say in control, and at the back of my mind I was saying, well, I can just party for now, but I can stop and get my act together and whatnot, you know. But it had a really trickle effect from there on. Getting involved with maybe drugs, right? It started with marijuana, and people, you would have think that most of the time we hear stories of people that got involved with drugs, it was like from an early age, growing up with parents that would have been using and stuff. My mother and father, I've never seen them put cigarettes or anything or smoking, and I got involved with marijuana at the age of like 16 to 17, just as I left school. I have never smoked when I was at school, and a lot of people thought that was strange, you know, growing up in Burden Hill, you know. So I started smoking marijuana at the age of 17, and that came with going to the dub. You had the Studio 10, or then you had what you call the Studio 10, which was a Sunday night dub. You had the Point Center, and at that time they had all of these different attractions. If you didn't have a pair of troops or Travel Fox, right? You didn't nobody, or they had like the Click or the Jordan suit, and they had some soldiers named Troops and stuff, you know. So that's the era that I really was involved with. Saturday night St. Point Center, then Sunday night dub, and that went on for a while. At this time I still working at Banksbury's as a young man, but what I think then after I had the job in the cellars, I start thinking about who in the dub when I had to work Sunday night, because the cellars required me to work shift, which would mean graveyard shift, you working night, and my thoughts would be in the dub, you know. And eventually, to cut a long story short, I left my job at Banksbury's to become a want-to-be pusher man. This is like the guy saw on the block, conking the money, say, well, if he could do it, I could do it too, you know. And that was my introduction to drugs. I started selling marijuana, or trying to sell marijuana, but then it was smoking more than it was using, and you know, it was using more than it was selling, right? You know, when you're a teenager, when you are a teenager, you always think you have these bright ideas. Well, for me, I always thought I had these bright ideas, and I said to myself, well, when I'm making the money smoking the weed, selling the weed, why I don't try to sell some cocaine, right? I don't smoke cocaine, so I can sell cocaine and smoke weed, and that was a bright idea, so I thought, and it wasn't before long I was mixing cocaine with weed. You understand? And I just want to say too that in itself, drugs create an illusion, right? When you use drugs, it creates an illusion that you can get anything done, that you're unstoppable and stuff, and it's a lie. It's just it's what is an illusion, right? And I remember using it for the first time, and at that time I was involved in gambling, nicking dice and things on the block. And when I smoke and go and gamble, I was winning money. I said, whoa, this is it. Not knowing that after I was losing money, but I still had to go to that same spot every evening and smoke. So, and I think that that's where the addiction really start to set in, right? Imagine too that I grew up in the 70s, going into the 80s, and at that time they will have all of these advertisements saying no to drugs, say no to drugs, with a skeleton, with a bone going across it, and I had these things painted inside the house, like, because I was a good artist too. I forget to mention too that I could have draw and paint really good, and I had these sketches of these different slogans inside the house. Nobody never thought that I would have got involved with that, right? So, you know, I started the dabbling with trying to sell crack and not smoking it, and then from the time I did that, my whole life started to make a downturn. At first it was fun, to tell the truth. At least I thought it was fun, you know, the gambling, partying and stuff. But then it got really serious that, you know, so between the time that I had left the job at banks and started as a pusher man, then at that time I was using, we would call the national insurance money and stuff to fuel the business, right? You know, and the more I got involved, the more money I was taking to the national insurance and everything done, right? And obviously by then family members were concerned. People in drug addiction, people see things from the outside more than you see yourself, right? And then there's a level of denial, right? You know, people were saying, well, Roger, look at your life, what happened, what you're doing? You know, because obviously I borrowing money now from family members and stuff like that and different things. You know, so I made one valiant effort at the time to stop. And this is still at the time when it was using the crack with marijuana, and I had gotten a job then at Caribbean Graphics as a seller operator. Sorry, as a pressman, assistant pressman, right? And this was probably in the early 90s, right? Because I would have done three and a half years mostly at banks. And then somewhere around in 92 to 93, around that area, I think I would have started to work at Caribbean Graphics as assistant pressman. and operating machines. And that's one thing I forget to mention as a youngster too, I was always intrigued by machines and machine operations and stuff, right? Yeah. And then the traits of addiction stepping, you see, calling in sick, borrowing money, getting paid on a Thursday, not coming to work on Fridays, getting paid one week and don't have money to last back to the next week. All of these things were happening. And you know, my mother was concerned, aunts and uncles were concerned, right? You know. So I remember that one day I stopped out 3 days. You know, on that third day supposed to bring in a medical certificate. I think I stopped out 3 days, and then the fourth day when I went to work, the manager told me that he hasn't wanted on my job. And that, you know, they had the green paper and everything, and so I came home, you know, and same cycle again, taking national insurance money and trying to want to be pushing my own business, and that it didn't work before. I don't see what it, and you know, in this addiction we got something in insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So here it was again, trying my hand at this, selling again, only for the same result. And it was even worse because I was using the harder stuff now, you know. And that went on for a while until the checks stopped coming. Then I had to find a way to get money, and I had decided, bright idea, I can start to wash cars. So I took up a bucket, chamois, bicycle, and I was out there. I was going to business places, washing cars. Some places they would let me take care of the hedges and the upkeep of the properties. And in my mind too, right, it could have been profitable in a sense, because over time I had accumulated at least 4 to 5 business places that I could have go at from Monday to Friday and do cars and do gardening, and would have obtained, although I was getting the money when it done, at the end of the week it would have been a substantial salary only if I was putting the money to good use, right? You understand? So in that self, I was still working, but it's what I was doing with the money, right? You know, and then freebasing came along, you know. That was a whole different thing. So freebasing is what we call when you start to use the pipe, right? And I started that, and that was the whole ball game change, you know. You know, a whole lot of different traits step in. You know, I became dishonest, unreliable, unemployed, and unemployable. You know, pacing the streets just for that next hit. You know, and you know, addiction and using drugs. Addiction is addiction. Using drugs was just a symptom. You know, addiction is a whole spectrum. Doing something obsessively, compulsively, and although there's signs of unmanageability, still doing it, right? And don't matter what it was, you know. So I became unemployable, and obviously then at the same business places where I used to work, I would do something. This old guy, he labeled it scratch and run. So scratch and run is you would come and you would start to work, and then you would tell a little lie and get some money and move out and don't come back. So I became dishonest. I used to come and take money, and then I started to, in actual fact, I started to burn bridges around me, right? Burn bridges with friends, family members, people who really cared about me. Drug addiction and using drugs in the whole I started to sever a lot of people that cared about me, you know, and even if they still care from a distance, right? So it wasn't long before Incarceration was around the corner, and that came in early 2000, actually the year 2000. I was incarcerated for having a illegal substance in my pocket. And most of the run-ins that I would have had with the law would have been just for that. If it wasn't for loitering or with something in my pocket that I shouldn't have, that was the most thing. And I chalked up quite a few, right? But before that, actually, I want to even elaborate too on after, the whole concept of using to we ourselves. I saw where at one point my life was out of control. So I started to make attempts to stop. I started not using in the week. I say I can only use on weekends. So I try to start curtailing my using, But little did I know you had to stop altogether, As I said, my father went away when I was small, and he lived in St. Martin, and I had kind of resentment for that, a little anger, but it kind of diminished as I got a little older, because he tried to really keep in contact. I remember times where my mother and him would be talking through letters, and he would send money, and then at one time he sent me an open ticket, right? So at first I didn't really, I wasn't, the ticket was there for pretty much more than a year. It was open for a year to put a date and just to, and it was there for a good one until I had my first run-in with the law, right? So this was back then in the early 90s, right? I would have had that run-in, but I wasn't incarcerated. I remember leaving here for Barbados, for St. Martin, saying this is a whole new place I'm going, and we call it geographical change. Whereas that I'm going to a whole different place, I'm going to start my life over, but little did I know I was taking the addiction with me, and it wasn't before long living there. I lived there for almost a year, and with him, and obviously with his consent, and he went through the correct channels, documents and stuff, and even was supposed to get my name changed. But I just started to look for people like that I grabbed, and it ended up to be almost the same thing. I probably didn't went to the depths of how I would have been here in Barbados, but it was somebody sitting short where obviously started to work, and it wasn't before long I was borrowing money from my stepsisters and stuff, right? Because he was remarried and stuff, and he got to find out, and then when he found out, I felt a bit ashamed, and so I said, "I'm coming back." I wanted to come back because it was like addiction is such a powerful, it's a powerful nature, right? A force, right? That only God, in my mind, only God can help, right? And I say, "Want to come out of Barbados?" I want to come out of Barbados. He said, "You sure?" He said that he could offer me an apartment for myself in a different quarter. Right? That's how St. Martin is. You got French Quarter, Dutch Quarter, St. Philipsburg and stuff, right? St. Petersburg, sorry. But I opted to come back. And when I came back to Barbados, I think that was in 1994, and that's my first initial stages of trying to reach out for help, right? My mother saw me. She came. She was crying and stuff, and I said, "You can go and get some help." At that time, there were only the psychiatric hospital. We were called the Tambourine House, and I was enrolled in the Tambourine House Rehabilitation program, residential, for a couple of weeks. And to tell the truth, at that time, I think I really did that just to pacify my mom so that she would say that I can't help. But in all the people, all that was said to me there, I think it just went through one ear and went through the next. Because it was, in my mind was still young, I know, you understand, nobody can't tell me what to do. So I always feel like I could chart my own path. I can just stay here for a while, pacify her, then again, you know what I mean? Come out and I can go get a job and whatnot. And, you know, everything the people tell me went through one ear and went through the next. And the time I figure back out there in music and get worse than it did. You know, I spent a lot of years out there in music, and until that first incarceration then in 2000, you know, and then I've been back and forth in and out, smaller states and stuff, and it got really bad. You know, for me it was bad. I don't compare my active news to other people's one, to other addicts or other people that have had their encounters with drug news. But I know for my part, mine was bad. And, you know, fortunately for me, God stepped in, stopped me right in my tracks. It was June 2009. So all that time out there, it was like, the only time I would stop music is if I was incarcerated, either for assessment at the psychiatric hospital, or if I was having a stay at the penal institution, which would have been for drugs again. Because I always used to get hold with something in my pocket I shouldn't have, and Dad didn't tell me anything. You understand? Repeatedly, you know. So in 2009, I had the opportunity then to. So before that, you know, I would have been out there in using still, and in using, you hit a lot of buttons. You hit different levels, and I could tell anybody that once you still getting the drug, it's not so bad. You understand? You could be homeless, or you know, just downright low. And as long as you get into the drug, or there's a means to get, it wasn't so bad, right? Every bottom that I hit, I would devise a survival mechanism and adapt. And okay, I can get through this, you know. But I believe that God has put people in your life for a reason. And there had still been a lot of people out there that I would have met in my endeavors out there in using. You know, going around residential areas, asking for odd jobs and stuff, that genuinely cared about me and saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. You know what I'm saying? And one of those people is my current employer now, whom I used to use the workplace. It's a bakery, and I would use there as one of my survival mechanisms, because I know if I go there early on mornings, I could get breakfast. I could go and ask for banana bread, and the CEO at the time, when I know he used to be there early, so I would go and knock on the side thing, and the gentleman would come. And I would say, "Sir, can I have a banana bread?" So he would give me the banana bread, and when I walk away, he would say, "You don't want a drink with that?" When you ask you for a drink, but he called me back and give me a drink. And he would say, "Thanks." And that happened over months and years. Yeah? I would go there, and then I would go there sometimes twice a day. So now I'm going to get breakfast next day, but I'm asking for money. And at one time he told me, I seem to be coming for money pretty regular. Every time it's an emergency. Right? You know, but he has never accused me of using. Although if he obviously the signs were there. But he has never said, "Oh, you're a drug user," or whatever, "don't come around," or anything like that. He said that he knew a place that if any time that I needed to help, or I want to reach out for help, that he knows a place and he knows someone that could provide the help if I so desire. You know, and at the back of my mind, I was there all the time. And I think right, the same year, same 2009, just before my birthday, which would have been in April, I was at this real low point. So I wasn't going home. I would feel it. I found it easier to stay where the drugs were at than to be in a comfortable house. And I went to the bakery that morning and I said, well, listen, you know something, I can take your order off, I want this help. And the man arranged a time and took me to what we know as Vernon House now. And that's where I had my first day initial, well it would have been second because in 1994, you know, I would have went to the Tamari House. But this time was different, you know what I mean? This time I was really genuinely willing to give this thing a shot. Although that being said, I still had 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Fear of the unknown, fear of what this life will be like, not using, you know. We went for the interview, I had the assessment. At the time they were full, so they said to me to stay 1 week. If I could stay 1 week, come back the following week, they will have a space for me. And I said, okay, you know what I mean? Part of me was saying, shh, oh gosh, I ain't gonna get to there, you know. But I think that in itself too was like a hindrance, because I afraid the willpower wasn't great enough to stay clean for that week. And I ended up using it before the following Monday. You know, and it was the same thing back then. We would call it bandwagon. And in the space of a month, I get hold again with something that I should have in my pocket. Imagine that. Every time, you know. When I went in front of the magistrate, I think at that time, I can't remember the magistrate name. But he had said to me, Mr. Streeks, you been doing this thing for a while. You're learning a lesson. I don't really want to send you to prison, but I will give you a chance to go to the psychiatric hospital. I said to him that I want help. And I relayed that I had went for the assessment and thing. So he said he would send me to the psychiatric hospital for a period of time, which is a 3-week period. That's the longest you could get until you come back to court. And at that time, someone from Vernon would House would be there to interview me, and therefore then I could have a shot at being clean. First couple of times I went back to court, no one was there from Vernon, so they kind of made me sweat. And funny thing is, addiction is so devious and cunning that when I was in psychiatric hospital, I was trying myself to devise some sort of plan that I could find a way back out there, you know. And don't matter how many times I would appear in front of the magistrate, all I was interested is if I can go back down the steps, if I can just get to go out down those steps and get back on the road. That was just to be my main concern. And so I remember going back to court the last time, and he said, Mr. Streets, boy, things are looking good because nobody from Vernon House here again to see you. And I had acquired these meeting lists where I have these different fellowship meetings and stuff, and I gave it to him, and he said no, that the assessment from the psychiatric hospital would have been, said that I would benefit from a residential. He said, I'm not putting you back on the streets. And then something like come up in my chest, and it was like, you know, so I think I did 3 days at the Dodds, and then the Friday, it was a Wednesday, and then the Friday, a representative from Vernon was there, and that's how I went to Vernon House on in 2009. I think it was June, right? June, July. Yeah. That's where recovery stepping. My introduction to Vernon House. And when I first went, obviously many times I would say that. How many times my mother hears say I get in trouble, she come and pay money at the court or bail me out of some situation, I would say, man, I done, I ain't doing it anymore. How many times I told people I done, I finished, not, this is not going to happen again. And you know, one person I didn't tell was myself. I didn't tell myself, so I told people. you know, and I went into the Word House program at first to escape the jail sentence. And that's the truth. They said, well, if I go to the rehab, you're locked up. So why not do the rehab? But it's on my first 2 weeks, I was still looking for some device in a way that, you know, I would play a part for a while and then just leave. You know, and then what that would get me doing is back on the same cycle that this was always used to do, right? Fortunately for me, a representative from one of the fellowship groups came in and he told his story, and it kind of I identified with it, you know. And then I tell myself, you know something, and I was 38 years, but then I got clean in my 30s, so I was in my late 30s, and I said, you know something, I can give this thing a shot. And at the back of my mind, I would always heard this this saying. My mom used to always say, she had this saying, these sayings, she said, use a hard story. Come on, heading going for this age, you're going to continue going down the same road. And I could hear her voice saying that, you know. So I made a genuinely step to do the program, you know. What I like about the Word House program, it helps the addict to deal with behaviors, and it helps to take away those initial behaviors. It helps you to function as a human being without the use of drugs, right? Therapy groups, we had drama classes, assertiveness classes, we had exercise, we had therapy groups, we go into the garden and, you know, deal with the agricultural aspect. So everybody had a chore. You were assigned a chore to do. After breakfast, you do that. I think all of the different facets of the Word House program are there for a reason. That one is not to be done and left with the other one. All are to be done, and it helps the addict evolve and prepared me to reintegrate back into society. You see, and one of the highlights of that program was being a chief peer. And the chief peer is responsible for ration. You go to the storeroom and get ration to supply breakfast and stuff for all your peers, set up the table on mornings, make sure everybody's accounted for. And that was a big highlight for me because I felt useful again, you know. And at the end of my using, I felt like I had lost all purpose for life. You understand? I say I would have committed suicide, but I was at a low point in my life where I felt useless, right? And that's one of the best things that could have ever happened to me, to be introduced to the program of recovery, you know. And I just did what people tell me. They tell me to give myself a break, you know. Just stay in the moment. Just try to do the next right thing and keep putting good upon good, you know. So that was really a high point for me, you know. While I was there, I did the 3 months, which would have been the primary aspect, and the halfway house was introduced to me. It was offered to me. I decided, you know something, I want to take the tools that I learned in my primary, because that's really, really neat, and go back into society. That I turned down that, so I turned down the halfway that was offered to me. You're allowed not to go and work, come in, and stuff like that. It slowly integrate you back into society. But I took the option to go home. And I came home, but then I was living in Bank Hall. And I remember that evening that my head was pretty noisy. Because I always had transportation, I always had a bicycle. So I remember on coming home, when my counselor dropped me at home, that I was thinking about the bicycle and stuff. But the most important decision I could have made was to make a fellowship meeting, you know. And I did that. And when I got there, they told me I was the most important person. And that fellowship had my back from then on till now. That's one of my support networks that I could rely on. And believe me, that there's a theory about men not asking for help. As a man, asking for help is not being weak. It shows a level of humility, and there's nothing wrong with asking for help. No man is an island, right? But some good things has happened to me, and from that day, I went to Verdun, and I've been clean from then till now. You understand? Next month, December, would have been would mark 14 years and 6 months for me being clean before any minor mood altering substances, and that's something that I cherish dear to heart, right? And I guard it with a belief and a real strong belief system, right? Very lion-like vigilance as it relates to that. My atmosphere, who I keep in my circle, who I associate with. You understand? I ask myself a lot of questions. If I don't need to be someplace, why am I there? And stuff like that. One thing I've learned through Verdun House is never to divert. You understand? And if I leave home to go work, I go to work. Unless I was supposed to run an errand, I go to work, back home. So my life is kind of structured in a sense, right? And then I have Verdun and my fellowship network to thank for that, right? Obviously, no, some good things have happened. And one thing about reintegrating back into society would have been employment. When you get incarcerated in the body, and about hiring somebody that they knew that had done a stint, right? So my first job was at Zafran's Bakery. It was a low wage job, right? But nevertheless, there was someone that was willing to give me the opportunity to work for honest dollar. You understand? A company that was giving me opportunity to work for honest dollar. And though the pay part was small, it was mine, and it was earned honestly. And some small things I started to get back. You went and get a driver's license, get your ID card, national insurance card, get back into the system, passport, all these credentials that an average human being will have. You understand? I started to accumulate, right? And I spent 3 years there as a baker of a man, you would say, until I moved into the bakery where I'm working at current, where I've now worked there for 10 years. 10 years. This month, November, is 10 years that I would be at Foster Bakery. And that's the same bakery that I used to go and bake for banana bread for the morning. So I even producing and baking the same banana bread that I used to get asked for. Right? So that's American. Who would have thought that the same place that I would have got asked for bread, I would have ended up having working there for 10 years, So God is great as in respect to that. Environment at my bakery now it's a smaller bakery, but it's a very international one. Working there has allowed me to accumulate a skill with my hands, right? Before, I never really had a skill in terms of being an electrician or a plumber. I always feel that a man should have something he could fall back on that he could actually make a living with a skill, right? So yeah, and it's good, right? So some of the other miracles that life has gotten better for me is I was able then to get back into a sport that I had a lot of passion for, which was bodybuilding. As I tell you, I got that first show that I did back in 1990, and then two I done, one in 89 and 90. I did Mr. Galaxy. I then came back and to bodybuilding, and there were one or two people that sparked the initial for my re-emergence, right? One of my long-time first training partners, a guy from the Bayland, and funny thing is, me and him and I were the two casuals that worked alongside of one another when they first went to Banks Breweries. We worked, and he's there now still, but we worked as we were the two casual workers working together. A fella by the name of Sean Springer, and he was my first training partner. I remember we had a gym too, and me and him used to train together at lunchtime. We used to go in the gym and train and stuff. And I remember being at Zephyr still now, to fast back forward, and I saw this TV article on sports, and they were interviewing him, and he was talking about getting ready for national bodybuilding championships and stuff. I said, "Hey, that's Sean," and I said, "Well, you're gonna get back." Like, you know, I always loved the gym, even although out there I find myself doing push-ups and stuff, right? But I always wanted to get back. It is a passion of mine I love. And I say, you know, someday I can train and go back to nationals. And that's that, because that's where we left off. That was the next show for me before I went AWOL back in the 90s, right? You know, so then again, I went and joined the gym that he was giving the interview at. I went and joined. It's a small gym in the Charleston area, the Kraken Barbell Club, Kraken's gym. And I went there, and the guy told me, "Man, you could come back and train, man. I probably will put you in a show." So, you know, I went and I started training again, trained for almost a year. And, you know, somebody saw me and said, "I think this guy named William Morris from the Pine. He's running Mr. Universe and a couple of other prestigious titles in bodybuilding." And he said, "You know, saying you could do the nationals." So he went into the nationals as a lightweight. And, you know, I get some licks. I came third. But technically can't last because I only had 3 men. So, but I felt good. I felt good that I could be back on the stage doing what I love. And he checked me on Facebook with my medal saying third place, my first time out. So the guys at the fellowship meeting was saying, "Man, I only had 3 men, you can't last." But so it was a joke. It was a little tease, but it was humorous. So since then, you know, I work on my physique. Obviously, I would have been in my 40s, making my comeback. And you know what they said, my legs were the thing that I had to really work on and stuff. The upper body responded well. But over the years, then I tried to bring back my physique as balanced as I could have get it. You know what I mean? And I kind of chalk up 1 or 2 titles. You know, I went to the Bridgetown with one of the shows I never really won. I never won the Mr. Barbados, but I won the Mr. Barbados Masters 4 times. So I'm a 4-time Masters national champion. I also did the Bridgetown and chalk up. I lost 2nd places at the Bridgetown show. But in bodybuilding, Bridgetown was a prestigious title that even back in the here all these men that win Mr. Bridgetown went on to win the Mr. Barbados. There's something about the Mr. Bridgetown show that was very prestigious, but it eluded me. You know what I mean? I ain't saying that it's on my grasp, no, but it's one of the shows that coming back to bodybuilding, it eluded me. But nevertheless, you know, I went to nationals and I won 4 titles in the Masters division, came 2nd at a few, and then I had the opportunity, which was one of my main goals, is to represent Barbados at the 49th CSC Championships, which was held here, and I came 2nd in the Masters division. So I got the opportunity to represent Barbados, and then this year I came 2nd again at the Roger Boyce Elite Classic Pro Show, which was held earlier this year. What I like about the bodybuilding, it supplements my recovery in a sense where there's a level of discipline that has to be acquired in preparation for a show, or even in overall wellness. You want to change your physique, it's all about the diet and your nutrients, you know what I mean? Managing and eating responsibly and eating stuff that will supplement your body, right? According to what goal you want to achieve, you know. Obviously 2020 was with COVID, and they're seeing a drop in the shows and stuff, and that sparked me, because although gym attendance was wavering, I said, you know, son, it would be nice to have my own equipment, right? And I went out on a limb and you know, I acquired some equipment and what do you call a backyard gym. Initially it was just for my own personal I say, well, I have a gym to train whenever you want to, whenever you feel it and stuff. Obviously, if somebody else wanted to train, I would allow them to train too. But you know how Bajans are. Somebody comes and says, Streeks, how much is the gym? So it's slowly turning from then my own personal thing into something like a side hustle in a sense, where people come and use the gym, obviously for a little fee, and then obviously I do training, coaching training, right? So personal training, we would call it, one-on-one training sessions with clients and stuff, and I name it Better Life Fitness Workshop. You know, and Better Life came in concept from me coming from where it was to a better life, and I kind of find a more fitting name than to name the studio Better Life Fitness Workshop, right? I'm Roger Streeks. I'm a baker, a bodybuilder, a recovering addict, and I'm just another Bajan.